Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a truly massive strategic pivot that just unfolded at Microsoft's Build 2026 event out in San Francisco. For years, Microsoft's AI empire was mostly built around other people's models, right? They were pouring literally billions into partners like OpenAI and Anthropic just to bring that intelligence over to Azure. But today, we're tracking a really bold move that fundamentally redefines their entire place in the AI stack. Basically, we are watching them transition from being the tenant renting the AI to the landlord owning the entire property. This striking quote from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella serves as the absolute perfect anchor for our explainer today. Just look at the contrast he's drawing there. It's no longer enough to just, consume an API from a partner. Microsoft is saying they need to fully participate. They're publicly declaring that they intend to build, host, optimize, and most importantly, completely control the economics of their own frontier intelligence. So let's get right into it with Section 1, the AI Independence Declaration. Microsoft just unleashed an incredibly aggressive barrage of in-house models. We're talking about a family of 7 new models, all under this new MAI banner. And as you can see, they are covering the whole shebang, from heavy reasoning and coding to images, transcription, and voice generation. But what's absolutely crucial here is that these are not just some backroom lab experiments. Microsoft is moving them directly into the tools developers and everyday workers use constantly. Think GitHub Copilot, VS Code, PowerPoint, OneDrive. They're weaving it right in. Now, the sheer scale and the origin story of their flagship model is fascinating. 35 billion. That represents the active parameters in MAI Thinking 1, which is a mid-sized reasoning model trained completely from scratch. And Microsoft was very careful to emphasize that it was trained on clean, commercially licensed data with zero distillation. Basically, that means they didn't secretly use a larger model like GPT-4 to train their smaller one. In an era where the legal risks around model copying are through the roof, owning a totally clean 35 billion parameter foundation, that's a massive strategic asset. And right here is the financial solution to the whole problem of renting AI. Microsoft projects that their new models offer roughly 10 times better cost efficiency. And that's based on public pricing data scaled across different model sizes. Think about it. Every single time Microsoft uses a third-party model, a chunk of their margin just vanishes to an outside provider. By running their own native stack on Azure, they capture the full margin. So it means lower internal costs for them and significantly cheaper tools for the developers using their platforms. This chart brilliantly illustrates the raw power of MAI Thinking 1. It is definitely not just a budget option. Look at this. In quality evaluations specifically tuned for McKinsey, it actually outperformed OpenAI's GPT 5.5. And then, in blind human evaluations run by an independent partner called Surge, it was preferred over Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.6. Oh, and it completely matched Claude Opus 4.6 on those rigorous coding benchmarks. It's literally going toe-to-toe with the exact frontier models that Microsoft previously poured billions of dollars into. Okay, moving on to Section 2, the Microsoft IQ layer. Raw models are great, but they need context to be truly useful, right? Otherwise, they just hallucinate. To understand Microsoft's new intelligence layer, which they're calling Microsoft IQ, we first need to look at this concept, ontology. Microsoft's Fabric IQ works as a semantic foundation for your structured business data. It essentially takes all those boring rows and columns of corporate data and gives it a structured, meaningful language, an ontology, that an AI agent can actually read, comprehend, and use to make logical decisions. So here's how this unified brain actually comes together step by step to stop that annoying, generic chatbot behavior. First up, Work IQ captures how you actually get things done across your emails and documents. Then, Fabric IQ organizes all your hard business data. Next, Foundry IQ jumps in to read through all the unstructured stuff, like wikis, contracts, and company policies. And finally, Web IQ grounds everything with lightning-fast real-world web searches. That search routing uses the standard Model Context Protocol, which Microsoft claims is almost 2.5 times faster than the alternatives. It's basically a complete 360-degree context engine for your work. Up next, Section 3. Meet Scout, your autopilot. With the models and that whole brain structure in place, Microsoft is introducing their first always-on agent, heavily built on open-source tech called OpenClaw. This comparison shows why Scout is just a completely different beast from what we're used to. Your standard chatbot, it's anonymous, it sits there waiting for a prompt, and it's prone to making things up. Scout acts autonomously in the background to handle the messy coordination work, like scheduling across 5 time zones or flagging a project risk. And crucially, it operates with its own governed Entra identity. No shared anonymous accounts here. Every single action is traceable, uniquely scoped to your org, and tightly locked down by Microsoft Purview policies before a single piece of data is sent. But hey, agents aren't just for managing your calendar and more. Microsoft also introduced M-, which is kind of a tongue-in-cheek name for a seriously powerful tool. This system unleashes a swarm of over 100 specialized agents, built specifically for developers. These agents actually reason through complex data flows and exploit chains, proactively hunting down deep software bugs that standard static security scanners completely miss. It's like having 100 security experts looking over your shoulder. All right, let's shift gears completely for Section 4, the quantum hardware leap. 20 seconds. I know that sounds incredibly short, but in this context, that number is monumental. It represents the mean qubit lifetime for Microsoft's new Majorana 2 chip, and they noted some instances are even lasting up to a full minute. Look, in the quantum computing field, qubits are notoriously, ridiculously fragile. Stability is normally measured in mere microseconds, so holding a state for 20 seconds, that is a massive 1,000 times improvement in reliability. To put that mind-bending physics into some kind of perspective, Microsoft used a really great analogy. They compared this stabilization breakthrough to your smartphone battery suddenly lasting 3 full years on a single charge instead of dying by dinner time. It really gives you a sense of the sheer scale of the engineering leap they are claiming to have made here. And getting there wasn't just a software tweak, it required a fundamental shift in materials. Their previous iteration, Majorana 1, utilized aluminum as a superconductor. But for Majorana 2, they completely shifted over to using lead. In this incredibly sensitive quantum environment, the lead literally acts as a physical shield. It protects those fragile qubits from environmental noise and even from cosmic disturbances that would normally just knock them right out of their quantum state. And honestly, the coolest part is how they did this. Microsoft used its own agentic AI platform, called Discoveries, to speed the whole thing up. They basically set AI agents loose on nearly 2 decades of their own disjointed quantum research data. The AI adjusted hundreds of voltages in parallel, constantly mapping conditions, which cut their experiment cycles down by orders of magnitude. Get this, one agent even found a hidden, uncalibrated temperature sensor in their fabrication data that human researchers had completely missed. Now, looking at this timeline, it is important to remain objective, because this specific physics path faces heavy scrutiny in the broader scientific community. The quasi-particle itself was theorized way back in the 1930s by Ettore Majorana. And let's remember, back in 2018, Microsoft actually had to retract a high-profile paper in the journal Nature that claimed evidence of the particle. The current Majorana 2 claims are still awaiting peer review. But despite that controversy, Microsoft is publicly doubling down, stating they are incredibly confident this trajectory will lead to a commercially viable quantum machine by 2029. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Investor or Direct Competitor. When you step back and look at the ultimate strategic takeaway from Build 2026, Microsoft is now in a truly unprecedented position. On one hand, they are the primary infrastructure provider and massive financial backer for OpenAI and Anthropic, literally distributing their models globally via Azure. Yet, at the exact same time as we've just seen, they are building a highly efficient, significantly cheaper, direct competitor stack, everything from their own LMAI models to the Scout agents and the deep IQ layers. So as we wrap up this explainer today, you really have to ask yourself, with Microsoft taking full control of its own AI destiny, managing the models, the agent tools, and eventually even the quantum hardware, what does this actually mean for the impending IPOs of its key partners like OpenAI and Anthropic? And how in the world will giants like Google respond to a suddenly independent Microsoft? The tenant has officially become the landlord, and the entire AI landscape is about to feel the shift. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the frontier.